All right, but we're going to begin this morning with some breaking news. A U.S. official confirms to CBS News U.S. forces conducted strikes on military targets on Iran's Karg Island overnight. This comes as President Trump is ramping up the threats ahead of that 8 p.m. Eastern deadline. In a new Truth Social post just out an hour ago, the president says, in part, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will." Let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi. So, Olivia, this threat is as serious of a threat that I've ever heard from a head of state, not just in the United States, but anywhere in the world.
Certainly, Vlad, this is an extreme extreme amount of threatening words that the president is using here. Certainly something that caught all of our attention this morning, and a threat that should be taken very seriously. The president saying that a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. He says he doesn't want it to happen, but it probably will. And then he goes on to say, now that there's regime change, they're hoping that less radicalized minds will prevail and maybe something wonderful will happen. But who knows? And you also just mentioned separately, we learned about those strikes that are happening on Karg Island. We're told that those strikes did not target the energy infrastructure on the island, but targeted the military infrastructure that's on that island. Now, that was already previously attacked, but certainly amounts to another data point to look at in the escalation that we've seen, at least just in the last hour or so. Never mind the fact that we are less than 12 hours away from this deadline that the president set. Now, this is a deadline the president has set and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. This is the third iteration of that pushback, is now this 8 p.m. on Tuesday night deadline that we are staring down. But the president has said he maintains if they do not make a deal and reopen the Strait of Hormuz in the next several hours, he plans to target civilian infrastructure such as bridges, power plants, desalination plants, perhaps. It's important to note that that is considered a war crime unless they can prove there is some nexus to military targets as a reason why they are targeting bridges and power plants. But still, Vlad, this is very much an escalation from where we were just yesterday.
Now, Olivia, you paraphrased in that Truth Social post. He said, quote, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen, right? It sort of seems like it's leaving the door open for some kind of peace negotiation. Where do those talks stand right now?
Yeah, well, yesterday the president had a press briefing where he spoke to White House correspondents and reporters, where he said he believes that Iran is negotiating in good faith. But still, today we have seen this escalation. So it appears to be happening on dual tracks. We actually just heard from the vice president a short while ago who's in Hungary. He's there with Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who has an election coming up on Sunday. But they did have a press conference, and he was asked about the strikes on Karg Island. He said that was always part of the military plan, so it doesn't amount to a strategic change in posture from the military. But on the negotiations, he says that the U.S. has largely won the war militarily, and the president believes that right now, even though the U.S. has achieved those military objectives, they believe that Iran is trying to squeeze those economic constraints right now on the Strait of Hormuz, which is hurting everyone globally. And because of that, the president is giving them this ultimatum. So that was also very notable. He also did say that the Iranians are not the fastest negotiators, saying that there have been some delay in transmitting those messages, which was signaling to me that they are recognizing that perhaps some of the responses they're getting from the Iranian side aren't coming through instantaneously. So therefore, this negotiation is taking a little bit more time. Even at one point, the vice president pulled out his cell phone and said that he had a text message from Special Envoy Steve Witkoff that he needed to read regarding these negotiations. So you can see how this is all playing out in real time. They say they are expecting more of the negotiations to happen in the next coming hours, but the vice president did repeat that the ball is in Iran's court.
All right, Olivia Rinaldi reporting from Washington for us. Thank you, Olivia. For more on the situation in the Middle East, we turn now to CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer in Tel Aviv. So, Liz, what are you hearing about this new strike that the U.S. has conducted and the president's threat?
Well, as Olivia said, the strikes on Karg Island hit military targets, that is mines and missile storage sites, for example, and not the main gas and oil processing facility, which is enormous. This place can fill 10 super tankers at once. And it does appear as if all the storage facilities and pipes and pumps and so on are being left intact, presumably because when this war ends, whoever's in charge is going to need revenue from the oil flowing through it. So apart from the attacks on Karg Island, we know that Israel has hit at least one railway bridge. We heard or saw the Israelis text all over Iran in Farsi, stay away from trains and train stations today. So at least one railway bridge has been hit. And apart from that, a whole range of targets for the U.S. and Israel, ranging from airports to residential areas, presumably where there are Iranian firing positions, to petrochemical complex. In the opposite direction, Iran has been firing missiles at Israel, at least 4 strikes today, causing damage in residential areas.
And as the president's deadline approaches, what, Liz, are we hearing from Tehran, if anything?
Well, the official response so far has been silence. We have seen a message go out from the Revolutionary Guards to patriots, if you like, saying, show up tonight and surround power stations and become human shields. I think it's a safe bet to say that some of the Iranian pro-regime supporters will either feel obliged to go and do that. But overall, people are just plain terrified. They're staying home. There's been a lot of hoarding of groceries in case there's so much damage that food can't get from the countryside into the cities. And people who have been able to leave the cities have just gone either to their home villages or some have summer houses. And apart from that, they're staying close to their phones and praying for the best.